coordination, as well as limited and contradictory public communication about the measures taken. The appointment of a digital service coordinator only shortly before the first round resulted in a lack of tangible impact. Ahead of the second round, the effectiveness of responses by the social networks continued to vary significantly, resulting in a high share of flagged content remaining unaddressed on some platforms. As concerns of online manipulation known as inauthentic behavior in election campaigning have increased across many OSCE participating states, so have our observation activities in this area. It is therefore important to understand our role in this area. This is to see if the authorities can detect such activity and if, how they respond. And this is what we've been observing. So we assess the platforms and the state's readiness to detect and address suspicious activities. The legal and institutional arrangements put in place to do this, the effectiveness of any intervention, and the state's cooperation with the relevant online platforms. While we do observe campaigning online by candidates, we are not there to detect violations, inauthentic behavior, or coordinated manipulation. Now, thirdly, let me move on to the media. Our observation found, as I already stated, that the media environment remained highly polarized, with many outlets demonstrating editorial bias that further amplified the confrontational campaign. This regrettably limited voters' access to impartial information when it was most needed. In addition, the only televised debate between the two candidates ahead of the second round was characterized by an absence of any effective moderation, allowing it to be used as a platform for mutual accusations rather than offering a meaningful comparison of political programs. For campaign finance, regulations are applicable to both rounds, but they do not ensure transparency, accountability, and integrity. The inadequate campaign finance regulations enable the frequent involvement of third parties, reducing accountability and the integrity of the process. 5, legislation and the judiciary. The lack of specific provisions in election legislation directly related to the second round of explicit articles of the time frame for the second round campaign period and the ability to challenge the results of the first round reduce legal certainty and undermine the right to an effective legal remedy. And at the same time, concerns continued about the lack of independence of the Supreme Court chamber established in 2018 that is responsible for validating election results. This controversy has lowered public trust in the judiciary, and this needs to be recovered through sustained reform. Finally, the election administration. The professionalism of the electoral institutions is encouraging, and the NEC and lower-level election commissions manage the process efficiently throughout, although the fact that sessions of the national election commissions were not open to the public reduced transparency. Election day itself was calm, and the process was professional, well organized, but again, the secrecy of the vote was often not ensured. And before I finish, I would like to express my gratitude to the long-term observers who have been working across the country, as I already stated, since mid-April. Heartfelt thanks also to the team of experts here in Warsaw for all their hard work and their energy and dedication. And my particular gratitude goes to the local staff. Without them, our observation would not have been possible. So thank you, and I look forward to your question. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And now we turn to Julian Bulay, who heads the PACE delegation.
Thank you so much, Madam Andrus. Dear journalists, dear representatives of the civil society, just a few words about me. I'm a Romanian MP, member of the Foreign Affairs Committee at home, and when at PACE in Strasbourg, I'm the chair of the Liberal Group. So, as you know, the Parliamentary Assembly was invited to observe this presidential election by the authorities, given that the country is currently subject to our monitoring procedure. I would like to thank the authorities for their invitation and for the smooth cooperation in carrying out this mission. I would also like to extend my warm thanks to you, Madam Mijatovic, head of the ODIHR mission, and to your highly skilled and professional team for our excellent cooperation these past few days. As per custom practice, the Parliamentary Assembly was present in the second round with a limited delegation of 8 observers, including our experts from the Venice Commission. This time, our teams observed polling stations in and around Warsaw, Łódź, Kutno, Białystok, Puławy, and Lublin. First, I would like to congratulate the Polish people on their commitment on the high voter turnout in the second round of the presidential elections, both domestically and abroad. Despite the high level of societal polarization, Polish voters demonstrated their commitment to high-quality democracy, confirming that the country has a solid democratic system. We also value the contribution of all Polish citizens involved in the 31,000 polling stations who ensured that the elections were conducted calmly and professionally. Special mention should be made to the significant participation of women on electoral boards. As well as observing Election Day, we also observed the electoral environment in which electoral campaigns are conducted. Let me highlight a few issues that we found important and which will be addressed in our upcoming report. Well, we were impressed by how committed the Polish people were to going to vote, even with their families. While I understand that this is a custom practice in Poland, vote secrecy, however, is a pillar of our shared electoral heritage. The state is obliged to provide the conditions for secret voting, and the voters have the right and the privilege to exercise this right. This is an important safeguard to ensure that everyone feels free to vote, immune from any undue social or political pressure in both urban and rural areas. Then, we also identified some vulnerabilities in the electoral process. During the electoral campaign, we witnessed disinformation and foreign interference, much of which the relevant Polish institutions linked to sources within the Russian Federation. The lack of efficient coordination among institutions limited the effectiveness of efforts to counter these attempts. This issue is of concern not only for Poland, but for all Council of Europe member states, and our Assembly adopted last April a resolution on foreign interference as a threat to democratic security in Europe. Hybrid and cyber threats are another vulnerability which undermines electoral integrity and people's trust in the system. On 29th of May, the Prime Minister announced the extension of national security measures in response to ongoing hybrid and cyber threats from the Russian Federation and Belarus. Over the past 2 weeks, there has been a great deal of concern about the independence of the Supreme Court chamber in charge of validating the election results. According to the European Court of Human Rights in Strasbourg, this chamber does not meet the criteria for a tribunal established by law. Concerns about the independence of the judiciary, including in electoral matters, will persist beyond this specific election. The absence of regulations of third-party campaigning is also an issue. These entities campaign for candidates but are not legally required to disclose their income and expenditure sources, which undermines the transparency, accountability, and integrity of campaign financing. We will now monitor post-election developments and prepare recommendations for our delegation to submit to the Parliamentary Assembly in September. As part of our monitoring procedure, we also expect to engage in a dialogue with the authorities to address key rule of law issues that impact electoral matters. I call, on behalf of PACE, the Parliamentary Assembly of Council of Europe, on Polish politicians to act responsibly and collegially and help the country resolve these issues. And now I'm looking forward to questions from your side, if there are any. Thank you.
Many thanks. Indeed, now there's time for your questions. As this is a press conference, we will only be taking questions from journalists, so I'd be grateful if you could begin by introducing yourself and your media outlet. Are there any questions from the media? This is your only chance. It's already after the second round. No questions? You already understand everything? In that case, we'll leave it there. The report and the press release are available in both language versions as you go out, and they will shortly be available on ODIHR's website. Thank you again for your interest.